Imagine walking into a room filled with the most powerful, elite individuals on the planet. Billionaires, top-tier athletes, industry disruptors, and world leaders. If you look closely, you will notice a fascinating, almost unspoken pattern among them. Not a single drop of ink on their skin. Society has spent the last 2 decades telling us that getting a tattoo is the ultimate form of self-expression. It is marketed as rebellion, a way to stand out, a way to show the world exactly who you are. But what happens when standing out becomes the absolute standard? What happens when, in a world where everyone is inked, having 0 tattoos becomes the rarest trait of all? In this video, we are going to dive deep into the dark psychology of the 1% who refuse to get tattooed. We will uncover why keeping your skin completely blank is no longer a sign of being boring, but rather the ultimate psychological flex and the most sophisticated form of modern rebellion. To understand the psychology of people with 0 tattoos, we first have to deconstruct a massive societal lie, the illusion of rebellion. There was a time, not too long ago in human history, when permanently marking your skin was a genuine act of defiance. It belonged to the fringes of society. It was the language of outcasts, sailors, bikers, and underground subcultures. Back then, getting a tattoo meant you were intentionally severing ties with polite society. You were making a dangerous, irreversible statement that you did not care about playing by the rules of the establishment. That was true rebellion because it came with a heavy social cost. But let us fast forward to today. The cultural landscape has completely flipped. Tattoos are no longer the mark of the outcast. They are the uniform of the masses. From corporate office workers and suburban parents to your local barista, the ink has been heavily mainstreamed, commercialized, and stripped of its original danger. It has become safe. And psychologically speaking, when a symbol of rebellion is mass-produced and adopted by the majority, it entirely loses its rebellious nature. It transforms into conformity. This is where the psychological divergence happens for the 1% who choose to remain ink-free. Subconsciously, or sometimes very consciously, they recognize this paradox. They observe a society where people are desperately trying to buy uniqueness by participating in the exact same trend as millions of others. The psychological trigger driving the modern tattoo craze is often herd mentality masquerading as individualism. It is a deep-seated fear of being perceived as ordinary, plain, or lacking in personality. The irony is that by rushing to modify their bodies to prove how different they are, the masses have homogenized themselves. People with 0 tattoos operate on a completely different psychological wavelength. They do not feel the anxious urge to visually prove their depth to strangers. They see the modern tattoo not as an act of liberation, but as a subtle form of social compliance. They realize that participating in a universal trend is the opposite of free thinking. Therefore, the script has flipped. If you are living in an era where modifying your skin is the expected norm, where everyone is screaming for attention through visual noise, then silence becomes the ultimate disruptor. The truest form of nonconformity left in the 21st century is not covering yourself in ink. The truest form of nonconformity is looking at a society desperate to permanently brand itself and quietly choosing to remain exactly as you are. The bare skin is no longer a blank page waiting to be filled. It is a deliberate refusal to conform to a system of mass-marketed individuality. Let us examine the very core of why human beings get tattooed in the first place. At its absolute foundation, it is driven by a profound psychological urge: the need for self-expression. We want the outside world to understand our internal landscape. We want to externalize our pain, our triumphs, our beliefs, and our loyalties. Society loves categories. It wants to put you in a neat little box so it knows exactly how to interact with you. A tattoo does exactly that. It offers a quick, easily digestible summary of your personality for strangers. It is a visual anchor. It is a way of saying to society, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for. But the 1%, the highly analytical, forward-thinking individuals who choose to keep their skin untouched, view this fundamental urge through a completely different lens. They recognize a psychological truth that most people actively ignore. Human identity is not static. It is highly fluid, constantly shifting, and inherently unstable. Think about who you were 5, 10, or 15 years ago. Think about the beliefs you held with absolute certainty, the things you thought were profoundly meaningful, the philosophies you swore by, the people you thought you would love forever. If you are growing, evolving, and maturing the way a high-level individual should, your present self probably looks back at your past self with a mixture of amusement and perhaps a little bit of embarrassment. The person you were at 20 is fundamentally a stranger to the person you will become at 40. And this brings us to the psychological trap of the tattoo. When you permanently ink an ideology, a name, a symbol, or even a specific aesthetic onto your body, you are taking a temporary state of mind and locking it into a permanent biological medium. You are allowing a past version of yourself, a version that was likely less wise, less experienced, and highly emotional, to dictate your physical appearance for the rest of your life. You are essentially trapping your future self in the stylistic and ideological choices of a ghost. People with zero tattoos deeply understand the danger of this identity trap. They operate on what we can call the blank canvas principle. To the untrained eye, a blank canvas might look like a lack of imagination. It might look empty, boring, or devoid of character. But in the realm of high-level psychology and elite mindset, a blank canvas is the ultimate symbol of infinite potential. By keeping their skin completely unwritten, they are making a powerful, subconscious statement: I am not finished yet. They refuse to finalize their identity. They refuse to put a period at the end of a sentence that is still being actively written. This requires an immense amount of cognitive flexibility and quiet confidence. It means they are perfectly comfortable with the unknown. They do not need to permanently brand themselves with a quote from a Stoic philosopher, because their worldview might expand beyond that philosophy a decade from now. They do not need to tattoo a fierce animal on their arm to prove to the world that they are strong. They just embody strength when the situation demands it. They remain adaptable, fluid, and entirely unbound by the physical reminders of their past phases. Their untouched skin is a daily psychological reset. It is a commitment to the present moment and the boundless possibilities of the future, rather than a heavy anchor dragging the past along with them. Ultimately, these individuals understand that the most powerful form of self-expression does not require ink, needles, or a chair in a tattoo parlor. True identity is not something you wear, it is something you do. They do not need a permanent, physical billboard on their skin to remind themselves, or to convince anyone else, of who they are. They let their character, their achievements, and their actions speak loud enough to deafen any visual noise. Let us move into a fascinating behavioral phenomenon that we will call the confidence asymmetry. If you look closely at the underlying motivations behind body modification, you will uncover a psychological concept known as the compensatory mechanism. To understand this, we must look at how human beings deal with internal insecurity. When an individual feels a subconscious deficit in a certain area, whether it is a lack of perceived toughness, masculinity, uniqueness, or emotional depth, human nature automatically seeks to compensate for that deficit externally. For many, a tattoo acts as psychological armor. It is a highly effective way to project an image of edge, danger, or profound depth without actually having to develop those traits internally. If you lack physical presence, a neck tattoo or a full sleeve instantly alters how strangers perceive your toughness. If you struggle to articulate your personal philosophy, tattooing a profound quote across your chest does the talking for you. It is a shortcut to an identity. But when we observe the top 1%, the elite minds, the true alphas of industry, the apex athletes, we see a completely different psychological framework. Their confidence does not rely on external modifiers. It is built on something far more difficult to acquire: core self-esteem. Take a look at the absolute peak of human performance. Look at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, or the silent billionaires sitting in boardrooms dictating the global economy. You will rarely find ink on their skin. Why? Because they understand that their biological and intellectual reality is already operating at peak capacity. When you have spent years forging a body out of pure discipline, sweat, and iron, or when you have built a mind that commands absolute respect the second you walk into a room, you do not need permanent accessories. You do not need a visual aid to prove your dominance. Your presence is the statement. For these individuals, their pristine, untouched skin is a testament to the fact that they require zero artificial enhancements to feel powerful. This brings us to a massive mid-video realization. There is a common societal joke that people who do not have tattoos are simply afraid of needles, or that they lack the pain tolerance required to sit in a chair for 5 hours. This could not be further from the truth. The refusal to get tattooed has absolutely nothing to do with avoiding physical pain. It has everything to do with the absolute refusal to relinquish control. Highly successful, deeply analytical people possess an intense need for autonomy. They maintain strict governance over their bodies, their diets, their environments, and their minds. The idea of sitting in a chair, handing over a piece of their physical form to another human being, and allowing them to permanently alter their biology for purely aesthetic reasons triggers a psychological red flag. It feels like a surrender of territory. They do not want another person's artwork, no matter how skilled the artist, permanently occupying real estate on their body. They view their body as their own exclusive masterpiece, shaped entirely by their own habits, genetics, and discipline. They choose the pain of the gym, the pain of discipline, and the pain of building an empire over the passive pain of a tattoo needle. They do not buy their armor, they build it from the inside out. And that is the profound asymmetry. While society uses loud, colorful ink to scream for attention and project a fabricated toughness, the 1% knows a deeper truth. When you truly know your worth, when you possess undeniable power and authentic self-mastery, the absolute silence of your skin is the loudest roar of confidence you could ever project. Now, let us zoom out from individual psychology and look at the macro architecture of human society. To truly understand the mindset of those who refuse to get tattooed, we have to analyze how human beings signal their value to the world. We have to look at the socioeconomic status game. In the realm of finance and luxury, there is a very well-known concept called stealth wealth, or the old money aesthetic. It is the observation that the newly rich tend to buy extremely flashy, logo-heavy designer items to desperately prove to the world that they have money. They are insecure in their new status, so they scream it. But the ultra-wealthy, the people who have possessed generational power, dress in complete anonymity. They wear unbranded, perfectly tailored garments. They do not need to scream their wealth, because their power is a quiet, underlying reality. People with zero tattoos apply this exact same psychological framework to their identity. They practice what we can call stealth identity. In the modern era, covering yourself in tattoos has become the psychological equivalent of wearing a loud, oversized Gucci logo across your chest. It is a visual shortcut to demand immediate attention. It is a short-term status signal designed to provoke a fast reaction from strangers in a coffee shop or a nightclub. But the top 1%, the elite strategists, the high-level operators, do not play short-term attention games. They play long-term power games. When you leave your skin blank, you maintain the ultimate tactical advantage in the socioeconomic hierarchy, the ability to camouflage. A blank canvas allows you to be a chameleon. An elite individual with zero tattoos can sit in a high-stakes corporate boardroom in a tailored suit, and they command absolute, undivided respect. Later that evening, they can put on a plain black t-shirt and sit in an underground jazz club, and they still exude a powerful, quiet magnetism. They are not visually anchored to any specific subculture, stereotype, or demographic. They are universally adaptable. They control the narrative of who they are in real time, using their intellect, their posture, and their articulation, rather than relying on a permanent drawing on their arm to do the talking for them. And then, we reach the highest tier of this socioeconomic game, biological preservation. The absolute elite view their bodies not as a sketchpad, but as a priceless, high-performance machine. Look at elite athletes like Cristiano Ronaldo, who famously refuses to get any tattoos. While many attribute this simply to his aesthetic preference, it is actually rooted in deep biological preservation. Ronaldo donates blood and bone marrow regularly. In many countries, getting a fresh tattoo disqualifies you from donating blood for several months to a year due to the risk of cross-contamination and blood-borne infections. For the true elite, the functional purity of their biology, the ability to save a life, to operate at maximum physiological capacity, to keep their bloodstream completely free of heavy metals and foreign ink particles, vastly outweighs the cheap thrill of a cosmetic trend. They view their untouchable health and their unblemished genetics as the ultimate luxury. They do not consume the modern trends of society, because they are the ones who design the rules of the game. Let us step away from philosophy for a moment and look at cold, hard data. Right now, there is a multi-billion-dollar industry quietly booming in the shadows of the modern tattoo parlor. It is the laser tattoo removal industry. Every single day, thousands of people walk into sterile clinics, pay up to 10 times the original cost of their tattoo, and endure excruciating, blister-inducing pain just to get a fraction of their original skin back. Why is this happening on such a massive scale? Because of a powerful psychological phenomenon known as tattoo fatigue. When you first get a tattoo, your brain is flooded with dopamine. It is new, it is exciting, and it draws immediate attention from your social circle. But human psychology is strictly governed by hedonic adaptation. Within a few months, your brain normalizes the ink. The dopamine rush completely vanishes. By year 5, you barely even notice it in the mirror. But by year 15, as your maturity, your career, and your aesthetic preferences naturally evolve, that once beloved piece of art often transforms into a cognitive burden. It becomes permanent visual noise. You begin suffering from tattoo fatigue, a chronic, low-grade regret, realizing you are permanently wearing a mindset or a trend that you completely outgrew a decade ago. The 1%. The highly analytical minds who choose to keep their skin blank operate on a very specific decision-making framework to avoid this exact scenario. We can call this the regret algorithm. Elite individuals are absolute masters of impulse control and long-term consequence analysis. Before making any permanent modification to their lives, whether it is a massive business acquisition or a permanent change to their biology, they ruthlessly calculate the long-term return on investment. They look at the concept of a tattoo and recognize a terrible investment matrix. The upfront cost is relatively mild, and the initial psychological reward is high. But over a timeline of 20 to 40 years, the aesthetic value physically degrades, the personal meaning often expires, and the social novelty completely wears off. It is, by definition, a depreciating asset on a biological level. Furthermore, the cost to reverse the decision is astronomically high when an elite thinker runs this algorithm. Evaluating an irreversible action where the psychological return on investment inevitably drops towards zero over time, their brain immediately issues a hard no. They do not fall victim to the temporary emotional high of a parlor visit. They rely on cold, calculated foresight. To them, keeping their skin pristine is not a lack of courage or a fear of commitment. It is the ultimate display of impulse control. They understand that deciding to remain exactly as you are, despite massive societal pressure to change, is the most perfect, risk-free investment you can ever make in your future peace of mind. We have journeyed through the illusion of modern mass rebellion, the strategic power of the blank canvas principle, and the quiet, undeniable dominance of the confidence asymmetry. So, let us return to that room of elite, high-performing individuals we visualized at the very beginning of this breakdown. They are not avoiding tattoos because they are inherently conservative, and they are certainly not avoiding them because they are afraid of the needle. They are making a highly calculated, biologically protective, and psychologically superior decision to remain completely untethered from fleeting cultural trends. If you are watching this right now and your skin is still entirely untouched by ink, it is time to completely reframe how you view your own physical vessel. Modern culture might attempt to convince you that you are missing out on a profound human experience, or worse, that you lack the creative depth to truly express your inner self. You must ruthlessly reject that false narrative. Your depth is not, and never will be, measured by the artificial ink injected into your epidermis. It is measured by the weight of your character, the razor sharpness of your intellect, the resilience of your mind, and the uncompromising discipline of your daily actions. You possess what has rapidly become the rarest physical and psychological trait in the modern world, the ability to exist completely unbranded. You are the original, unaltered masterpiece. You do not need to permanently sketch your ideology onto your body because your true identity is a living, breathing, infinitely evolving force that simply cannot be confined to a single, static image. You have chosen the ultimate psychological freedom. You belong to a silent but aggressively powerful tribe, a group of independent, elite thinkers who categorically refuse to let loud societal trends dictate their permanent biology. And now, it is time to make that powerful silence heard. If you have watched this far and you proudly maintain an original, uninked skin canvas, I want you to scroll down to the comment section right now and simply type the words 1%. Let the world and everyone else watching this video see exactly how massive, self-assured, and proud our tribe truly is. Claim your space. If this deep psychological breakdown shifted your perspective and brought you value, hit the subscribe button right now. We are building an exclusive community dedicated to advanced behavioral analysis, elite mindset mastery, and uncovering the dark truths of human psychology. Keep your canvas blank, keep your mind relentlessly sharp, and I will see you in the next video.